Yurdumarung, Yuan Yadi Audrey, Baladu Waradri Mulangandu, Ngadu Yarra Research Dalam. Hi, my name's Audrey. I'm a Wiradjuri woman and a molecular plant scientist, and today I want to yarn about my research. Dalang, today I want to tell you a story, and this story starts with nitrogen. Now, nitrogen is super important for plant growth. Think of it like a plant building block. Because nitrogen is so important, sometimes farmers have to add biyang, a lot of synthetic nitrogen fertilizer to keep their plants dumbung. Now, dumbung means for plants to be healthy and green and strong. Without these nitrogen fertilizers, farmers wouldn't be able to produce the bunaga, the abundance of food that they do, and many people could go hungry. This is where legumes come in. Now, legumes are a type of flowering plant that includes things like peas, beans, chickpeas and lentils. What you might not know is that 90% of native Australian flowering plants are actually legumes. Now, what makes legumes really cool is the symbiosis that they form with the bacteria in the soil called rhizobia, and that leads to the formation of nodules. Now, inside these nodules, the bacteria, the rhizobia, are actually living, and they're doing a process that we call biological nitrogen fixation. This is essentially where bacteria take nitrogen from the atmosphere that plants can't use, and they turn it into forms of nitrogen like ammonia that the plant can use. So it's a reciprocal relationship. The bacteria gives the plants some nitrogen, and in exchange the plants give the bacteria dangal bu dangan, shelter and food. Now, nodulation is a pretty cool way for legumes to get their own nitrogen, but it does take a lot of energy and resources. So the legumes have to make sure they can really balance their resources and their energy and make sure they make the perfect amount of nodules for the environment that they're in. If there's already plenty of nitrogen in the manang, the soil, it doesn't make sense to make a lot of nodules. So there's actually a genetic pathway to Dalanbul Mabanya to immediately stop nodulation when nitrogen is around. My research is trying to build to understand this genetic pathway and other genetic pathways that allow plants to respond to their environments. In Western science, we're really taught to think about these genetic systems in a linear way, to simplify them and make them seem easier to understand. The problem with this is that biological systems are never really linear. So at the end of the day, these linear systems are never going to be quite right. To help overcome the limitations associated with this, I try to remember Wiradjuri ways of thinking, which are more circular and non-linear. And there's some things in Wiradjuri that exist in the past, the present and the future together, or Nyandulable, at one and the same time. For me, this is a really good way to think about genetics, and it is far more flexible than a linear way of thinking. I hope that Guweyu, in time, will know more about legumes, and we can find opportunities to include them in agriculture and protect Ngurrumbang through lessening our reliance on synthetic nitrogen fertilisers. I also hope that in the future we have more Indigenous people in STEM sharing their perspectives. Mandangawu, thank you.